The American Cotton Shippers Association, also known as ACSA, is a trade association primarily made up of cotton merchants. Founded in 1924, ACSA members manage the majority of the cotton trade, providing merchandising, delivery logistics, and risk management services to their customers. ACSA is grateful to Senators Cindy Hyde-Smith of Mississippi, Katie Britt of Alabama, Roger Marshall of Kansas, and John Boozman of Arkansas for introducing the Buying American Cotton Act of 2025, which will build structural demand for U.S. cotton. ACSA urges all cotton industry stakeholders to support this initiative by reaching out to your congressional delegation and requesting their support for this legislation.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Cotton Grower Magazine's Cotton Companion podcast. I'm Jim Stedman, editor of Cotton Grower, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, Beck Barnes. Well, Beck, this crop is still trying to catch up after a late start across most parts of the cotton belt. And when you look at the latest crop progress numbers, and we're going to do that here in a few minutes, you'll see that the overall crop is now just a few percentage points shy of the 5-year average. Considering where we started the year with cool temperatures and a lot of rain that delayed or completely prevented planting, this is really pretty significant progress.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Jim. We're happy to see it. You know, I know that being from the Mississippi Delta and just being here in Memphis, generally kind of get myopia focused on the Mid-South. And so, we know that it was so wet here. It delayed planting. Some few pockets couldn't even get planted because of the rain in that planting window. And I know the Southwest, they probably had better weather, better rain moisture situation than in several years past, but still not ideal. And so anyhow, say all this to say everybody's had their issues early on this season, but it's nice to see everybody catching up. We're, catching up with 5-year average, as you say, given the economic circumstances surrounding this 2025 planting season, man, our guys needed a break. And it feels like for the most part, they've gotten at least decent weather. And so we are happy for that.
Well, I'm glad for to see them catching up and everything, because I think as our friend O.A. Cleveland has said many, many times, you never underestimate a cotton plant.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, this season's also reminding us that you should never underestimate a cotton grower when it comes to trying to find a balance between protecting his crop while closely watching the bottom line. There are plenty of success stories being written across the cotton belt right now about weed control. A lot of it is being achieved with one of the growers' key weed management tools unavailable this year. That, of course, would be Dicamba. And kudos to the extension weed specialists and growers for putting some viable alternatives in place. But within the past month, EPA has announced that it is again looking at a new potential registration for over-the-top Dicamba products and is looking for comments and input from across the industry, both pro and con, to help them with their final decision. Now, we've talked about this in our last episode, but with that comment deadline creeping up quickly, we wanted to go into a bit more detail. So to help us out, our good friend Stanley Culpepper, who's University of Georgia Extension Weed Specialist, is going to join us in just a few minutes to discuss the EPA announcement and the potential opportunity it brings. This one's important with some action required, so please stay tuned.
Yeah, Jim, super excited to have Stanley. I always think of him as the kind of the godfather of the resistance situation. And, he was on the front lines down there in Georgia back in the 2006, 2007 times when they were first discovering glyphosate resistance down there. And he's just, there hadn't been much that he hadn't seen down there. So we're happy to have him join us today. But before we get into all that, we want to take a moment to look at the current status of the U.S. cotton crop, as you mentioned earlier. Now, this is as of a August 10th USDA crop progress report. That's 2 days ago as we're potting today on the 12th. But so we have squaring now reported in 93% of the total crop. That's up 6 percentage points in the past week and just 1 point off the 5-year average this week. Bowl set is reported in 65% of the total crop. That's up 10 points in the past week and now within 6 points of the 5-year average. Open bolls are now visible in 8% of the total crop. That's just 2 points behind average and actually slightly ahead of average in some Mid-South states like Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Overall, the cotton crop condition shows 53% of the crop rated as good to excellent, 29% fair, and 18% as poor to very poor. As we've said in the past weeks and continue to hear from the field, this crop's looking really good. And when you look at the individual state numbers, some of the good to excellent ratings will make you catch a breath, ranging from 44% across the entire state of Texas up to 100% in California, with most states at or well above that 50% mark. So again, that is it's good to hear. We enjoy hearing that. So we got our fingers crossed. We can keep this crop going with no major late season problems. Knocking on wood from here to harvest.
Absolutely. That's we don't need no weather problems right now or anything else at this point.
Yeah.
One other thing to watch, and it came in this morning, the August World Supply and Demand Report, the WASDE report for this month, was issued today. And it's interesting because back in June, USDA came out with their acres planted report. And I think at that point, they predicted, they were calling for 10.1 million acres in cotton planted. Now, the numbers with this report have been reduced, I think, back down to reflect the realities of the market, because we kept hearing that the numbers for Georgia were too high. The numbers in the Mid-South were too high. The numbers everywhere were too high. So today, USDA is saying that the planted acreage is down to 9.3 million acres, which I think will make a lot of the state folks nod their head a little bit, which is going to reduce our harvested area down to about an expected 7.4 million acres. Now, normally news like that, when it comes across, will cause cotton prices to go up. We'll see. There have been all sorts of indicators so far this season that normally would cause a little bump in cotton prices, and you might get a 24-hour bump, and then it slides right back down into the same 65 to 69 cent range. So I'll be curious to see what the market looks like tomorrow after this, with the release of this information.
Just the 800,000 acres disappeared there.
That's right. It just evaporated. But I think there was like 800,000 acres that never existed.
Yeah.
So,
crazy.
It is crazy. With that, let's get to the topic of the day. EPA is interested in re-registering over-the-top dicamba, and they want your comments, and they want them now. So joining us to discuss why, Stanley Culpepper. He's Extension Weed Specialist with the University of Georgia. Stanley, welcome back to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you guys so much for what you do to support agriculture.
Oh, we appreciate that. So let's start with a quick look at the Georgia crop. The state got off to a slow start with planting. What does it look like now, and what are growers saying about their fields?
Well, we've been really lucky the last week or two. Of course, it's hit and miss, and no matter what you say, somebody's going to disagree with you. But we've been getting some rains, and the temperatures weren't necessarily as bad as they could have been. The last couple of weeks were more in the high 80s and low 90s versus around 100. So our nighttime temperatures have been a little favorable for the last couple of weeks. Hit and miss rains. Most of our people are getting rains, and overall, I think we're, of course, hesitant to be too excited, but we're a little excited, at least right now, for the potential.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we heard rumors about EPA and dicamba from various folks in the industry here for about several months, maybe stretching back to Beltwide. I think there were some suspicions at that point. Yet this June 23rd announcement kind of caught us a bit off guard, simply because I think of the timing on it. You've always had a good working relationship with EPA. Did you know this was coming, or was this kind of a double take for you too?
No, I think we had a pretty good indication that it was coming, and I want to give kudos. You mentioned the EPA and the relationship. I want to give kudos to the EPA because I'll tell you right now, they're really trying to help our farmers. They're trying to help our farmers with ESA. It's unbelievable what we've accomplished there. They're trying to help our farmers here with the dicamba, and I think, my opinion, but I think the reason it's hit so early because it gives us the opportunity to get comments back so they can make final decisions. So maybe, just maybe, we'll have the opportunity to use the tool for 2026. So kudos to our industry partners, kudos to our ag stakeholders, and especially thanks to the EPA for understanding the importance of the tool, the technology, and the value it brings to us on the farm. But we kind of knew we were working towards this, but no, I didn't know it was going to exactly happen on that day. But I was really optimistic it would happen prior to August.
Okay, Stanley. Well, look, man, we know that the new registration package is not the same as it was for Dicamba back in 2023 and prior to that. We know that the registration was rescinded. The label was rescinded back in February of 2024. So now we are back with a new registration package. And this one seems to have a few more guardrails in place. Can you tell us what's new, what's different, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to give you, a response based on my understanding right now. Keep in mind, this is proposed. It's not final, and that's why hopefully these guys will push you to get your comments in before the comment period closes. But when you get in and you read the information, you will see some significant differences. Number one, we're going to be required with Ingenia and XtendiMax to not apply more than twice. So 2 applications at a half-pound active, 22 ounces of XtendiMax with your 12.8 or so of Ingenia. So we are going to be limited to 2 applications instead of in the previous labels we had additional applications. We'll still have the opportunity to do the pre-plant, at-plant, pre-emergence, or post-emergence application. So that really didn't change. The other requirements that I think we need to highlight is all of the applications, including these products, will have to include both a VRA and a DRA. Now, most of us did that previously anyway, but that's going to be a proposed requirement. Another big change on the proposed label is the droplet size. Instead of us having to go check this tip or that tip, it looks like they're going to offer the restriction that basically says coarse or coarser droplet size. So that allows us a little bit of more flexibility instead of having to go check every single tip on the requirements. As far as our downwind buffers, a little bit of a change there in the non-ESA areas. It's still going to be a 240-foot downwind buffer, but we will have the opportunity to reduce that buffer. And that's really, I think, coming from all our work on ESA, because they're going to give us an opportunity if we have windbreaks, if we use hooded sprayers or lay-by rigs, we can reduce that buffer quite significantly. As we can reduce it if we reduce the number of passes in the field, as well as we can continue to use those managed areas to let our buffer run into to try to avoid any buffer in the field. So that's some big ones for sure. The one that bothers me personally the most, though, is they are adding a volatility table, requirement table. They call it the EPA proposed volatility mitigations table. This is one I would encourage you all to go look at. I think the other changes we can handle, at least in the world that we're using the tool in, but the one that is definitely a significant challenge is their proposed volatility mitigations. And basically what they're doing is they're telling us that we will have to do certain mitigation requirements as influenced by temperature. So for example, if it's less than 75 degrees, and this is a 48-hour window. So when they tell you a temperature, it's not just for one day, it's actually for 2 days. So it's a 48-hour window. If your application timing is going to occur in 75 degrees or less, again, that 48-hour window, we would have to add our historical rate of our VRA, 20 ounces of Vapor Grip, 8 ounces of Centrus, and we would be able to go, but that's less than 75 degrees. Once it exceeds 75 up to 85 degrees, we have to double that VRA. So now instead of say 20 ounces of Vapor Grip in the past, we would be using 40 ounces. But the one that's got me worried, most of my applications are going to end up somewhere between 85 and 95 degrees. In between 85 and 95 degrees, I have to do 2 things. I have to double my rate of VRA, which of course costs me money, but then I also have to pick between 2 additional mitigation options. Option 1 is use 40% reduction in the area treated. I don't know how anybody would do that on a farm. So I think option two is the best option, and option two would prohibit any tank mix partner. So for example, we would only be able to do the dicamba formulation plus a VRA and a DRA. We would not be able to put a glyphosate with it. We wouldn't be able to put a residual product with it. So when you think about if you end up between 85 and 95 degrees, you got to double your VRA. That costs you a significant amount of money. And then I'm going to have to apply sequential applications. I might have to go out with my glyphosate and come 3 days later with my dicamba. That costs me more money. So this proposed mitigation, I am anticipating right now, if we can't get it modified, it's costing us somewhere potentially around $10 million for 1 million acres of cotton, or about $10 per acre. So that is one thing that is highlighted for me, and I would encourage all of your readers and listeners to go look at the volatility requirements. We are going to offer potential alternatives that are less impactful. Now, let me be very, very clear. The theory of basing volatility on temperature is a whole lot better than picking a random date or a random growth size and putting restrictions on you, right? It's going to move to this concept of it's based on temperature. That concept is good, but this table is problematic. And the reason it's problematic, neither the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension Service nor the Georgia Department of Agriculture have documented a volatile drift complaint from in-crop labeled use of dicamba since we've started including the VRA. So I've got a lot of additional cost without the documentation that I'm having a problem. So I'm struggling a little bit about that. I want to highlight that for your growers and your listeners. And hopefully we can come up with some kind of a solution that's not quite as impactful negatively on our growers than that requirement.
Yeah, that seems a little cumbersome. I'm just sitting here thinking that, I don't know about Georgia, Stanley, but where I'm from, Leland, Mississippi, we're not seeing 75 degrees between May 1st and June 7th. Most days we're going to be up there in that 85, north of 85.
Well, you got another part of the table that's important to you as well. So once the temperature gets to 95 degrees, and again, that's not just today. If we want to spray right now, we have to look today and we have to look tomorrow. But if it equals or exceeds 95 degrees, then you can't use the product. And I'll give you a real world example. We've gone back and we've done different locations and different temperatures over the last 3 years. So if I just take you to Southwest Georgia, a little small town called Donaldsonville, in 2024, the number of days the restriction would have prohibited application, 37% of my application window would be gone with this restriction. So again, I don't want to influence others because they may have different situations that we have, but I would like to influence them to go look at this. If you have ideas, you have concepts, or you have theories that we can work together. It's got to be sound science. It has to have the impact that we need on mitigating off-target movement. But if we can do that without costing our growers a tremendous amount of effort and money, we really need to work together to find that solution.
Yeah. Well, no, you're I hear you loud and clear, encouraging comments. And that's the theme. That's the theme of what we want this interview to be about. We're trying to encourage our listeners to go ahead and study up and comment where they can. So we've talked with growers and have seen comments from others about their weed control programs this year, 2025. And nearly every one of them said they feel like they've done the best they can with the options, the tools that they have available to them. But also, readily admit they feel like they could have done better with dicamba's flexibility in that application timing that we're talking about. Now, among your growers, Stanley, what was the primary go-to program or programs this season without the dicamba tool? Because I know you had everybody trained and ready to go down there in Georgia.
Right. Yeah. Let me first support what you're saying about the flexibility with the dicamba system. Our data supports you completely in your statement. Completely. If we've got a 3-inch pigweed in the field and we go with a glufosinate or a Liberty-based program and we go with the dicamba program, we can get the same result. We're very, very effective. But if that pigweed's 7 or 8 inches, say it rained 20 inches, say the tractor broke down, if you don't get to that field and that pigweed's 7 or 8 inches, our data says the dicamba program, not a single application of dicamba because it's not that good, but the dicamba program, we can end up 30-40% more effective, right? So you've identified something that's very important, and it's very important to help the EPA and our manufacturer partners understand that. So that's important. What our growers did, again, our growers choose the cultivars that yield the greatest, right? It's all about yield. No matter where you're looking at, especially today in the current economic situation, it's all about yield. So in those areas where the growers yielded better with the traits that allow glufosinate and dicamba, obviously we relied heavily on a glufosinate program using residual, super timely applications. If you were timely, I think you were surprised how effective you were. If you were late, probably not as excited as you would have been if you were able to use the dicamba systems. In those other areas where we were able to use the 2,4-D traded technology with glufosinate, those programs perform very, very well. So again, we really need, in my mind, that third technology. You've got the dicamba based system. Hopefully that'll come in the future. You got the glufosinate based system, and then you got the 2,4-D based system. But both the 2,4-D system or the Enlist One system and the dicamba in crop products allow us the ability to include glufosinate or Liberty in that system. So we really like the flexibility. You nailed it. The key is flexibility. We need to have the opportunity to plant the traded technology that yields the most to stay in business. So we need those options available to allow us to do that.
Sounds good. Now, going back to something we mentioned just a few minutes ago, EPA, right now is saying, they're interested in feedback, obviously, about this temperature dependent volatility mitigation that you so eloquently described. They want to talk about percent of field treaty restrictions, any science-backed solutions to manage volatility. They've given people till August 22nd. That is basically a week and a half from now.
Right.
To provide comments about this new label. What advice or what are you telling growers about this opportunity right now?
So two things are interesting. So I have to be careful because we're on a podcast. If you go on the docket right now, and you guys can do this and double check me, but if you go on the docket, the EPA put a document up on August the 8th. And that document is titled the memorandum. It's the comment period extension for the registration of dicamba on dicamba tolerant and cotton and soybeans. So I think there's an extension. All right. The memorandum reads there's going to be a 15-day extension. So if that's the case, we would get till September 6th. So number one, that would be a huge positive. Here's
That's
my only
great. That would be
concern.
great.
Yeah. Well, here's my only concern. When you go on the docket, that document, trying not to mix the words up, that document is there posted on August 8th, but it says closed for comments, right? The one that's still open is the one that requires you to go on August 22nd. So hopefully that's just a snafu. We're going to get it clarified in the next day or two, but you guys can let your listeners know for sure in the next day or two. But I think we're going to get that extension to September 6th. So that's number one, right? So we need to get the right information of when the closing time is going to be, and you guys can confirm that behind me. So that's important.
Yeah, we'll be looking for that.
Nothing a couple of old ag editors love more than a deadline extension, Stanley. So you're talking our language.
Well, Beck, while we're talking, pull that thing up and see if you see that August 8th document. So I feel good about that. So after that, this is actually something I'm going to include in my comments because I truly believe the EPA wants comments from our growers, agents, dealers, distributors, the people in the field. I truly believe that. But there are 21 documents on the docket. All right. Some of those documents, there's one supplemental document, almost 500 pages. Right. So how can you find the information that you need to find for a grower or an extension agent or a consultant to really give us the information we need? Because we need their information, right? So what we're going to do is we'll meet with extension tomorrow and we'll get them organized, and then we'll ask these individuals to join on with us, right? But the bigger process, we need to get better. And I'll give you an example. So your listeners, of those 21 documents on the document, they need to go to the memorandum supporting proposed decision to approve registration for the uses of dicamba on dicamba tolerant cotton and dicamba tolerant soybeans. That was dated July 22nd. I think it came out July 23rd. All right. And then your growers are going to say, I'm not going to read all that. Go to pages 28 to 35. If you go to pages 28 to 35, this is the proposed label requirements. That's where if you're a grower in Georgia, you're a consultant in Georgia, you're an agent in Georgia, that is where we need your help. to highlight that section. A lot of the other information is going to be about human health safety, which is absolutely essential, but our growers probably won't spend a lot of time there. We need the growers to help us on all those different changes that occur. Many things haven't changed. Some things changed to the positive to make it easier for us. That volatility table is certainly a challenge in my view, but that's where all that information is available for each and every one of us. But again, the bigger issue that I see is I know the EPA and other regulators want input from our growers. We have to facilitate a better process of communication because this is really, really complicated.
Definitely. Well, with all this process in place and everything, any predictions at this point?
No, I mean, I'll give you this prediction, and I don't even know if I should go here. If we do get the label out, it'll get us sued immediately, right? So it'll be a challenge.
Right.
And I don't know if any of your listeners are with the groups that are suing, but man, I really wish you guys would reach out to us and let's work together. You want the same thing that we want. We have to, science is clear. You have to have these plant protection tools to feed the world. So if you want the U.S. farmer to stay in the game and to feed the world, we have to have the tool, right? You can help us develop great approaches that help a farmer keep the tool on target. I don't know a single farmer or pesticide applicator that doesn't want to put the product on target, maximize pest efficacy, minimize the amount of products we want to use or have to use. It's something that we could work together instead of suing and taking the tools away, that which then forces us in a very difficult situation. That's often much worse than even having a tool there. So again, I reached out in a different avenue than you probably thought, but we really need to work together to realize if we're going to continue to feed the world, we've got to have our farmers. We're losing farmers too quickly. These tools are critical to their sustainability. They're critical to our national security. They're critical to us and our children having safe, affordable food that's available.
I think that's great. It is. I agree with you completely that if this gets approved, I guarantee within 4 hours there will be something filed at Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is really, really sad. It's this division, this divisiveness just needs to end at some point.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is these groups that are suing, and those of us that we've invested a decade to improving on-target applications, improving human health safety, improving our applicator safety, right? We're not, our objectives are the same. They just do not understand how committed we are, how much work we're doing, how aggressive our growers are to putting these products on target. Now, the message to our growers, if you're not among most of our growers that want to put these products on target and you don't respect the value of these tools and how you have to have them to remain sustainable in large scale agriculture, right? We need to have a conversation with you as well, because you are the true stewards, right? It is the farmer, it is the applicator. You're the steward of the environment. You're the steward of the application. You're the steward of protecting yourself, protecting the consumer, protecting the rest of the world. So they have to lead us, right? But it's my job to develop the science to help them make intelligent decisions that improves on-target applications, improves pest management, improves resistance management. That's my job. Your job is to help us get this information out. You guys do a phenomenal job. We all have a role to play, but it's the farmer. It's the applicator. They're the most amazing human beings on earth. They have to take a lead. They have to respect it. They have to help us improve what we're doing. Again, a lot of these guys may be doing things to make sure they avoid volatility or avoid drift or avoid runoff, right? We got to address those three things. You got to address particle drift. You got to address runoff. You got to address volatility. All three of them are highlighted here. All three of them are going to be highlighted as we move forward. And we have an opportunity to be a part of the conversation, which is different than we did in the past, right? In the past, we stuck our head in the sand. We let some regulator take a tool away, and then we all got together and fought to get it back. And I don't understand why we do that. We need to work together ahead of time, address the issue, be the lead, developing the science, be the lead on communication, helping our regulators understand the effort that's behind using these tools, the respect of these tools, the respect of everybody that we work with and everybody we sell a product to. And we'd be so much better off. But we in agriculture have to change the discussion and change the concept, because there are not many of us, as you well know.
Yeah, definitely.
Amen.
Amen. Looking ahead to next year, knowing that we don't know if we'll have an answer on this in time for growers to start planning for next year. What would you tell them right now in terms of putting something in place for next year? What about their planning?
So I'm an optimist, right? I'm a perpetual optimist. I feel really, really good with the Dicamba, with the document. And again, I've criticized the volatility table, but let me once again say the science behind a rising temperature correlated with increased volatility potential is sound. The concept is sound. It's just so overly aggressive against us. It's going to cost us a lot of money and maybe no return of investment. So again, I like the document. I like the proposed label language, with the exception of that. There are a few other things that we're going to work and try to improve. But I'm an optimist that we're going to have the opportunity. Thank the EPA for moving as aggressive and as soon as they are, because I think this will give us the opportunity this fall to say, yes, we're going to get this, or no, we're not going to get it, keeping in mind we're going to get sued 4 hours later, like you said. So I will, as I have always done, I will go into next year and I will have the best dicamba-based program, which is not obviously just dicamba, 5 to 7 classes of chemistry. The best
Right.
glufosinate-based program, same deal, maybe 4 to 5 classes of chemistry, and the best 2,4-D in crop enlist one type program. So again, I'm going to have all the programs. I'll have everything that's available to our growers, but I really want our growers to have the tools, to allow the flexibility to say, this gives me the best yield potential. This fits the best on my farm. This fits my weed spectrum. And we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but we're really seeing a dynamic change in the weeds, at least in my part of the world, right? So Palmer amaranth is still king. It remains king, but man, we're seeing some shifts that are significant. Grass is everywhere, of course, but man, nutsedge and spiderwort, I'm having all kinds of these shifts. So it might be more of a field by field or farm by farm management where we actually implement different programs, and it's not going to be one program fits all,
Yeah,
but because of the weed spectrums that are exploding in some of our areas.
that's great. Well, Stanley, as always, thanks for taking time to join us today for this extremely timely discussion. We certainly appreciate your input. We hope that we were able to get you into an air-conditioned room at least for a few minutes at this point. But once again, for our listeners, to provide feedback, go online to regulations.gov. I believe that's still where the link is set, right, Stanley? Look for that dicamba docket number, and as Stanley has pointed out, specifically look for pages 28 to 35 to help summarize the stock. Or if you can't find all of that, go to cottongrower.com. We have an article online there with all these details and links about this proposed legislation or regulations. The links are there that you'll need to get in touch with EPA and make your voice heard. So, Stanley, we're trying to help you out as much as we can, and we appreciate you for joining in.
Thank you guys so much for what you do, and not just in the weed world, but in all of production. So thank you for supporting our farmers, and you farmers, thank you for feeding us and feeding the world. You're critical to humanity.
Thanks, Stanley.
Stanley, we appreciate you. Well, that's it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. Thank you again to Stanley Culpepper for providing his insight on the latest EPA plans for dicamba registration. And thank you, too, to our continuing sponsor, the American Cotton Shippers Association. As always, we want to thank you, dear listener, for joining us and for your continued support. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did like what you heard, please be sure and spread the word. Tell your friends and farming neighbors about the Cotton Companion podcast. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
The Cotton Companion podcast is produced by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues at the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Jim Stedman, he's Beck Barnes, and we'll be back with you in a few weeks with another episode of the Cotton Companion. Until then, everybody stay comfortable and stay safe.
'Cause God made me a farmer. Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all day. God made a farmer.